Hi everyone. I gave you a version of this this same video. I sent you all a version of this way back in the middle of October. So hopefully a good few of you access that. I'm basically doing the same video again because I need to upload it in a different format for YouTube. Anyway, I'm going to go through the guidelines and I'm going to give you specific guidelines on the different options. So where are we in the month now? We're probably another just over 2 weeks before deadline day. So some of you I know have actually done a lot of work on the assignment at this stage. Some of you have actually finished your assignment. But for those of you who have finished your assignment, remember you still have up to deadline day, submission deadline day to work on this. So you may have finished the deadline, this assignment early so you can get on with working on other assignments, but don't discount or don't allow for the fact that you can and you probably should just come back and double check your work before the final submission day. So you might have it all more or less done, but there's always scope for last minute, well, not last minute, there's always scope for final tweaks or final edits before your final submission. Anyway, on this page here, basically the key points. This assignment is worth a half of the continuous assessment marks. It's worth 1/3 of the overall module marks. So it's important. It's important. I'm sure none of you are going to do this at the last minute, but if you do it at the last minute and you get a bad mark, there's no use coming crying to me, because you need to give this. If something is worth 1/3 of the module marks, you need to give it the appropriate amount of time. So last minute jobs, if you do a last minute job and it's a bad job and you get a fail mark for this, sorry guys, it's on you in that case. The word count, it's suggested should be between 1,750 words and 2,000 words. Now, if you go slightly over the word count, I am not going to lose the rug or lose my wig over that. So if you end up with 2,300 words, you don't even have to bother coming back emailing me saying, Adrian, I went 2,300 words. It's okay. If you go a couple of hundred words over the word count, that's okay with me, because I know sometimes, especially those of you who are really putting a big effort into this, sometimes you need a few extra words just to better explain what you're trying to say or do. If you've gone 500 words over the word count because you're waffling or you've gone off the point and getting into irrelevant material, that's a totally different story. But that's less to do with the word count. I suspect, and more to do with needing to focus on what you should be doing in the particular task. Now, if you're doing a video, the suggestion is the video should run, you should be covering the same amount of material in the video as you would be in a written report or a newspaper article format or a letters format or a one-act play format. So I would say for a YouTube video, roughly about 7 minutes worth of content, roughly 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes worth of content. And the general guidance on the videos would be, for videos, what I generally suggest is, and I give you this in the guidelines anyway, if you're going to do a video, as I said, roughly between 7 minutes and 10 minutes of content. Obviously, you can't submit the video through Turnitin, so upload your video on YouTube. When you're uploading it, select the unlisted option right at the end. So don't upload it public, because I presume you don't want everyone to see your video. If you upload it as private, then you're the only person who can see the video. So if you upload it as unlisted, it means you can see the video, but also people who get the web address can see the video, including myself, because if I can't see your video, then what's the point? So select the unlisted category when you're uploading your video. That will allow only you and me to see the video, or only you and me and the external examiner to see the video. What you should submit through Turnitin if you're doing the videos, submit a document which will include the web link or web address for your video. That's important. I need to be able to find your video. But also, if you've used the script and you follow the script for your video, submit the script through the Turnitin link along with the video address. And also in that document include a list of references. So any books you read to help you better develop your ideas, better develop your understanding of the approaches. Obviously, you can't use in-text referencing in the video because you can't go, well, I believe that quantitative geography is the worst thing ever. Nike and Jeffrey, you can't talk like that, but you can and should include a list of references for any books you read to inform your work for the video, or indeed inform your work for any other of the options you could do for this assignment. So there's three main options for the assignment. I'll go through them again, and you can use any different format. So this is a chance to get away from the boring essay format. Now, if you want to go with the boring essay format and you can make it work, that's more than okay with me. But you can also do, as I said, you can do a video, you can record yourself for the video, you could do a PowerPoint version video like I do for the recorded lectures. So you can do a one-act play if you want. Sometimes the one-act plays can work quite well. You can do a newspaper report. You can do letters to the editor format, and that might work well with the social media bun fight, where one of the geographers writes to the editor to better explain, their arguments and why they think their approach is the best, why the other approach is flawed, and then the other geographer responds to that letter, and obviously link everything back to the original Twitter or X post, or the original Facebook post, or the original, I think we even have do we have a Snapchat post that's kicked everything off, or the Instagram post. Now, as I say, try to be a little bit creative here, because if you do a kind of a boring conventional essay, you need to do a good job in that boring conventional essay to make your work stand out. If you do a boring conventional essay and the work is meh, it's okay, then you're going to get a meh okay mark. So if you try to be a bit more creative and it pays off, you have more chance to get a few extra marks here. Your work will stand out, it'll be more memorable. Ultimately, no matter what option you go with, there has to be a good degree of relevant content. And it's okay to get most of this content from the lecture material. Now, if you're getting ideas from the lecture material, you don't need to reference them. So I don't need to see, oh, Adrian Kavanagh's 2025, loads of Kavanagh 2025s, or spatial science lecture, or humanistic geography. You could have about 7 or 8 references from individual lectures. So I don't need to see that. You don't need to reference lecture material, but do try to engage with some reading to help you better develop your ideas for this. You don't need to be drawing direct quotes from the readings, and I would prefer if you're not drawing direct quotes from the readings, but try to use readings, try to engage with readings. If you haven't done this already, it's a good habit to get into, because the lecture material will give you about 40, sometimes 30, 40 minutes of relevant ideas in relation to one approach, but there's a lot more detail on humanistic geography or Marxist geography or spatial science if you also read, say, the relevant chapter from Creswell, or the relevant chapter from Nike and Jeffrey, or the relevant chapter from Johnson and Sidway, or you read a few of these chapters. So a bit more reading helps you to better develop your ideas. But ultimately, no matter what approach and option you go for, no matter what method or format you use for your report, whether it's a video or one-act play, there has to be a good degree of content. If it's all style and no substance, then that's going to be a problem. You can be as creative as you like, but if there's no substance, if you have no relevant content, then yeah, that's problematic. So ultimately, the main thing is the content. A boring conventional essay that has a good level of relevant content is better than a wonderfully produced video that doesn't actually say anything much about the approaches to human geography. Last point then, normal geography department referencing guidelines apply. If you read books, and if you've read books to better understand the material or the approaches for your assignment, include those in your list of references. Excuse me. So yeah, as I said, carrying on from the previous slide, normal geography department referencing guidelines apply. Follow the department referencing format for producing your list of references or your bibliography. If you're getting different chapters from a book, you just need to list the book in the list of references. So you don't need to go chapter 2 of Creswell and a separate one for chapter 3 Creswell. Just list Creswell's book in the list of references. As I said, there really shouldn't be much, if any, use of direct quotations in for these options. So yeah, avoid direct quotations, because if you're doing a one-act play or you're doing a video, it doesn't make sense if you suddenly pull a direct quotation out, because people don't speak like that in everyday life. If you do feel the need to use direct quotations, use them very sparingly and make sure to correctly reference them within the correct in-text referencing format. So that's usually author, in brackets, author, year, and page number. If you use direct quotes, you have to include the page number for the in-text referencing. As I said, there's details there on the different formats you can use, and a few of you are asking about the video format. And all the information you really need to know or need to be able to use the video format is included there. So as it says, should be roughly 7 to 10 minutes long. What you submit, if you're doing the video, upload it on YouTube, use the unlisted setting instead of the private setting, in which case only you can see it, or the public setting, in which case anyone can see it. What you should submit to turn it in, you should submit your script if you use the script, or any notes you used if you used notes instead of the script. So anything you've used to read or work through the video. Obviously, make sure you include the web link, the YouTube web link for your video, otherwise I can't see it, and the external examiner can't see it, and a bibliography or list of references if you use books, if you read chapters from different books to better develop your ideas. Now, this is important, guys. Just don't do this. There's no need for bloody plagiarism. So no plagiarism. Don't think, and this can be something people do, if you come to do this, you suddenly realize, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock on the 3rd of December. I haven't done anything for this bloody approaches human geography assignment, so I just cut and paste a few ideas from and pass them off as my own. If you do that, that's cheating. You get 0%. And I won't even countenance any crying on this. 0% straight away. Plagiarism, no. Collusion, where I don't think there's going to be scope for collusion, but this is where you kind of just... collusion is kind of it's where someone else is working with you on the assignment. It's not all your work. Now, I think it's okay if you're kind of friends in the class. It's okay to bounce ideas off each other, but don't end up... What I don't want to see is a scenario where 2 of you or 3 of you end up producing almost the same work, because you're more or less just doing the same thing. So if 2 or 3 of you end up submitting more or less the same work, then that's obvious collusion. I want original work, individual work from all of you. You can bounce ideas off each other, but don't end up more or less submitting the same assignment, because otherwise that's collusion. And again, sorry guys, boom, 0%. Last point, there should be no need to use AI, no need to use ChatGPT for this assignment. If I see anyone using it for part of the assignment, even if it's small parts, there will be serious marks reduction. If it looks as if a large chunk or most or all of the submission was generated through AI or ChatGPT, then boom, 0% straight away. 0 bloody % straight away. There is no need to use AI. Now, the last point then to say, how do you submit the work? There's a standalone submission space, Turnitin submission space that's now up on the Moodle page. So use that, please. So the first option is the geography murder mystery option. You're given criminal case notes and there's a number of suspect geographers. So each of your main suspects for this crime will be linked to a different approach. So there's a humanistic geographer, a regional geographer, an environmental determinist, a spatial scientist, a postmodern geographer, a Marxist geographer, a feminist geographer. Did I forget anything? Yeah, no, there's no behavioral geographer. So there's a little hint for you guys. No behavioral geographer in this particular script. So there's a number of suspect geographers, all of whom are linked to a specific approach. Now, you've got to try and work out which of these suspects is acting particularly suspiciously. And the way you work out that they're acting particularly suspiciously is if you look at how they're behaving. If they're behaving exactly as you would expect based on their particular approach, then they're probably legit. Then these are people who probably have nothing to do with the alleged crime. On the other hand, if you see some of these saying or doing things that you wouldn't expect based on their own approach to human geography, then you can mark them down as a suspect. Now, here's a hint. Some of the characters act exactly as you would expect them to behave based on their own approach. Some characters largely act as you would expect based on their approach, but there's a few occasional blips where they go out of character. And then there's one or two characters who do and say things that are really what you wouldn't expect based on their approach. There's a few other hints in the case notes, in the details. So really read through the details carefully because you don't want to miss out on important clues. Just a hint, the person who has been arrested for this alleged murder, which is Lily, they are innocent, they have been framed. Second hint, don't worry about Conor Murphy as a suspect because Conor Murphy, as you all know, always acts suspiciously. So whatever Conor Murphy's doing, it's nothing to do with the murder. He's just out and out acting suspiciously. Now, how would you present this? What I would say is it's always good to break your idea up into 3 or 4 main points, whatever way you're going to, whatever format you're going to use for this murder mystery. So try and bank 3 or 4 main points, main arguments. So maybe the first main point or main argument are the characters you think are innocent. The geographers you think are innocent, mainly because you haven't seen them doing or saying anything that you wouldn't expect them to do or say based on their approach to human geography. Next category then might be the geographers are slightly suspiciously because they did 1 or 2 things that you didn't expect. Last category could be your main, the people or the geographers that you think are the main suspects. And obviously for all these, you have to outline why you think that's the case. Now, this is where the class content comes in. So when you're outlining why you think someone is, when you're outlining why you think someone is not a suspect, you need to say, well, I don't think they're a suspect because they're, we'll just say, because there's none here, they're a behavioral geographer, and in the middle of the task, they were discussing their research methods, and they were talking about the use of mental maps, and they were saying about how they liked the ideas that they draw from psychology, and that's exactly what I'd expect to see from a behavioural geographer. On the other hand, you could say, hang on a second, if the character is a behavioural geographer, you might say, hang on a second, no, if it was a different script, no, I think this person's very suspicious because I heard them getting into a row with another geographer and they were screaming and they were saying questionnaire surveys were totally useless, they were pointless, they were a waste of time. But hang on a second, aren't questionnaire surveys a method that we particularly associate with behavioural geography? Okay, so hopefully you get what I mean. So it's kind of, you need to use your knowledge of the different approaches to explain why you think certain characters are serious major suspects, certain characters are maybe minor suspects, and other characters are innocent. There's nothing there to see. They seem to be, maybe there's nothing there to see because they barely appear in the script, or maybe there's nothing there to say because what they're saying, what they're doing is what you expect based on their approach. So hopefully you get that idea. Last part is where you decipher based on all the information you gathered, most of which should be based on the approaches to human geography material, others which might be kind of more red herrings in the text or pop cultural references. What do you think actually happened here based on all the information in the script? So that's the basic idea. Now, how you do it is up to yourselves. It could work well as a one-act play where you're the detective who's just replaced the inept DC Kavanagh, and you're coming in to announce, almost like Agatha Christie, what you think happened to all the different suspects. And you could do it as a newspaper article. You could do it as a video as well, where you're presenting your case to your superior detectives on why you think such and such a person should be arrested, or where you're addressing the news media after you've arrested the suspects, and you're explaining why that person was arrested and why other people were not arrested, if you get what I mean. So yeah, now the main thing with this task, with this option, as with all the other options, make sure there's enough course content there. Because if you ignore the course content, it's going to be style over substance, and that's not what we want. You need to get in ideas from the course, and where you're getting the ideas from the course, as I've said already, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important, where you're getting the ideas in from the course is where you're explaining why character X is a major suspect because they did this, and I would not expect a geographer from this approach to do this. They said this, I would not expect a geographer from this approach to say that. So yeah, there are some very obvious clues in the text. Keep an eye out for them. If you have a fairly good basic understanding of the different approaches to human geography, you should pick up those clues fairly well. So this option, as well as option 2, this will test, do you have a good basic knowledge of the different approaches to human geography that are referred to in this text? I'm not expecting a highly detailed understanding of these, but a good basic understanding. So you know kind of what's the basic things we associate with Marxist geography, what's the basic things we associate with humanistic geography, and so on and so on. Now, the geography traitors option, it's pretty similar to the murder mystery, to be honest. Again, you're looking at what characters are saying and doing. Is everything these characters are saying and doing what you would expect them to say or do based on the approach to human geography that we're associated with? Are the things that they're saying and doing out of kilter with their approach to human geography? So the hint here is ultimately those of you who watched the traitors, whether the celebrity traitors or any of the other BBC version or any of the other versions of the BBC Traitors or the RT's Traitors Ireland over the last few months, you know the basic premise of this. There's roughly about X number of people in the game. Some of them are traitors, and the traitors are allowed to lie in this game. So ultimately, you're trying to identify the geographers, the geographical characters in this game who are telling lies. And they will say or do things, again, like the geography murder mysteries, the traitors in this game will say or do things. They will say or do things that they shouldn't be saying based on their specific approach to human geography. So again, I use behavioral geography because there is a behavioral geography character in this game, Survey, but Survey is not a suspect because Survey was sadly murdered early in the game. And the reason why they were murdered, you can probably hint at why they were murdered. There was a good reason why. So if you were looking at Survey again, if, as actually in the script, if Survey was someone who was big into kind of ideas about human behavior, loved using questionnaire surveys to do their research, you would say, hang on, this person is legit. They seem to be, what they say seems to be true to them. I am pretty certain that that person or that character is faithful. On the other hand, if Survey, who is no longer with us in the game, now I'm sure they're with us in life still, if Survey was going out slagging off the use of mental maps and surveys as a research method, if they were saying that to other geographers, maybe to try and win them over, like they were trying to look cool with a postmodern geographer and trying to win that person into their, trying to get that person into their confidence. Well, in that case, you would say, hang on, they're telling lies. Isn't that traitor-like behavior? So which characters are showing traitor-like behavior by obviously lying, by doing or saying things that you would not expect them to say or do based on their specific approach to human geography? So, who are they? There are characters in the game. So the remaining characters in the game, I mixed in some of the approaches to human geography class in the middle of this game. Any of the approaches to human geography students, apart from Andrew, any of those, we had to throw in Andrew as a kind of traitor for a day in this game. You'll know what I mean if you saw the RT version. Yeah, any of the remaining GY305 students left in the game, they're all faithful, so don't worry about them. If you're one of those characters, it's okay, you're good, you're faithful. Unless, of course, you were Andrew, but sorry about that. Anyway, look at the remaining kind of other geographers. So look at them. What are they saying? What are they doing? Are they showing traitor-like behavior? Are you deciphering, based on your knowledge of their approach, that they're telling lies? They're saying or doing things you would not expect. In which case, I think you should think about outing them as a potential traitor. They are showing characteristics of being a ruthless traitor. On the other hand, even if that character is saying or doing things that really are annoying people, but what they're saying or doing is true to their approach, then that character is probably going to be a faithful, or even at the worst case, a bad faithful. Final points. No, one hint here: there are 3 traitors in the remaining characters in this game. So there's 3 traitors. This is the little Easter egg I'm going to give you. Those of you who bothered listening to this video, I can tell you there's 3 traitors left in the game. There's 3 traitors. All the other characters are faithful. So the trick here is, first of all, work out who you think the remaining faithfuls are. Obviously, the other remaining members of the Approaches to Human Geography class, they're faithful. Don't worry about that too much. Take that for granted. But which of the other remaining geographers do you think are faithful? They're just saying, doing things you would expect a behavioral geographer to say or do. you'd expect a post-colonial geographer to say or do, etc., etc. And then you need to decide who you think the 3 traitors are. Damn it, I should have picked a different number. The 3 traitors. Traitor number 1, traitor number 2, and traitor number 3. And why you think they're the traitors. So it's very similar to the geography murder mystery. I think this person is faithful because they did X and Y, and I would expect them to do X and Y because they're a regional geographer, and regional geographers, this is what you'd expect of regional geographers, because regional geography is about blah, 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 blah. So using ideas from the course material to explain your arguments. And also, if you've done background reading, using ideas from background reading to further explain your ideas. I think this person is one of the traitors because they did Y, and that's something I would not expect from someone associated with this approach. Okay, yeah, hopefully you get that idea fairly clearly. Now, as with the geography murder mystery, the trick here is, again, to think about how you're going to present your ideas. You can do a conventional essay where you've got 3 or 4 main points, main arguments. You make your case, you explain your case, throwing in ideas from the course material, from readings, and you move on to your next argument. You can use a newspaper article, so boom, 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 geography traitors ends with all the traitors outed, and you explain why you were so clever in the article, why you as a character were so clever in finally pinning down the traitors, getting them out of the game, ensuring that the faithful won. You could do it as a one-act play, and the obvious idea for the one-act play is the final meeting at the round table, where you, as this very clever character, come in and say, okay, I've decided the first traitor is this. I'm not a traitor. How do you make that? Hang on a second. Didn't you say this? What? You're a behavioral geographer. You shouldn't be saying that. Oh, everyone else, I'm convinced they're a traitor. They go out and say, okay, you can assume it's like the Irish case on the last day. Are you a traitor or faithful? I'm a traitor. Woo, we got one. And then you go through the rest, try and outline the next 3 traitors. And you can give it a twist then, where you kind of go, oh, I was left with 4 faithful, but I decided to get rid of them so I could take all the prize money for myself. Well, if you know the game, if there's faithful remaining, you'd have to split it with another faithful. So pick another member of the class to split the money with. Anyway, I'm going off the point there. But yeah, one-act play could work. Again, a video could work. It might allow you a bit more time to actually go into it, and you could do a bit of acting here. Now, when I talk about videos, as I'll say again, I'm not expecting high production values. I actually like videos that have low production values, so long as I can hear what you're saying. And if you do something a bit mad in the video, but you're getting across the content, that's more than fine with me. Now, the social media bun fight option. I'm giving you about 6 social media posts, and the social media post is basically like, it's the equivalent in the old days of someone going into the schoolyard and calling out someone else. So it's basically, for instance, you've got a regional geographer calling out a spatial scientist. You have a Marxist geographer calling out spatial scientists. Everyone seems to want to call out the poor old spatial scientists. So effectively, what I'm presenting there is the start of a potential argument between 2 different geographers, and in some cases 3 different geographers. So what you've got to do in this option is work out what happens with this argument. So you see here, we have the 4th option. You have Harvey Davids, in no way related to David Harvey. Harvey Davids coming out and obviously slagging off spatial science, but he's also slagging off humanistic geography as well. And then Ralphie Ted, who is in no way related to Ted Ralph, Ralphie Ted comes and says, look, we don't like spatial science either, but why are you picking on us? And anyway, your approach sucks. So this is potentially the start of an argument between a Marxist geographer and a humanistic geographer. or potentially, if you want to, an argument between a Marxist and a humanistic juror, and then a spatial scientist could possibly get involved in it. Now, what's up to you really with this option is to see what happens after this. How does this argument progress? And again, there's different ways you can do it. I don't think the conventional essay really should work very well with this option, but I'm not saying don't do it. A conventional essay where you kind of go, yeah, these two guys are arguing. Here's some of the arguments that could be made in favor of Marxist Jorvie. Here's arguments that could be made against Marxist Jorvie. Here's some arguments that could be made in favor of humanistic Jorvie, arguments against, blah, 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 end of story. The thing is, I want you to try and keep to the spirit of this option. So in this option, you're dealing with characters. You need to involve the characters in your essay. So if you kind of do the essay and it's just a general discussion on Marxist Jorvie and humanistic Jorvie, if the content's good, you won't do too bad, but you're not going to get very, very high marks because it's not fully in the spirit of this option. You need to try and refer back to the characters. And the characters allow you to give this a bit of personality and allows a bit of creativity. So you could do a one-act play. One-act play is probably where Harvey Davids by accident bumps into Ralphie Ted. I don't know where Marxist Jorvers and humanistic Jorvers go to. You're young, you know where all the cool people go. So you can decide to set the play anywhere. So it could be in the, that acai bowl shop in the middle of the Bain Street in Maynooth. It could be anywhere. You can set the play anywhere and work out what happens between the Jorvers. Now, guys, this is the Easter egg I'm going to give people who are doing this option. I'm going to give you this Easter egg. I gave the Easter egg to the Jorvie Traders option in the previous slide. The Easter egg I'm going to give you here is what I would think is very clever with this option is obviously you want to see the Jorvers arguing about their approaches. But what I want you to see is being critical here. Actually say, hang on, maybe at the end of this play or at the end of this newspaper report or at the end of this video, we can actually work out a case where maybe the two Jorvers actually come together and agree on something. So again, you could have Harvey Davis going, oh, humanistic Jorvie, you should be ashamed of yourself. Blah, humanistic Jorvie, it's this, it's that. Why can't you be like Marxist Jorvie? We're blah, 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 blah. And then Ralphie said, no, you're totally off the pine. Marxist Jorvie, blah, blah. And they're fighting away. And then the spatial scientist character, Bunny Williams or something, whatever you want to call them, suddenly appears. And suddenly the two of them stop fighting with each other and they pick on the poor old spatial scientist. So yeah, there's scope to get extra points if you're creative here. It shouldn't just be about the two different characters fighting the whole time. Maybe think about if there's any cases or instances where the two of them might actually agree with one another. There might be some, maybe not a kind of kumbaya holding hands at the end of it, but some sort of mild agreement between the two of them. So what might Marxist Jorvers and humanistic Jorvers agree on? Or in another option, what might regional Jorvers and spatial scientists what might they agree on? It mightn't be agreeing on things to do with their approaches, but they might have a common enemy with one of the other approaches. So hopefully you get that. So yeah, again, this is the social media bonafide option. The format you can do it is up to yourselves, of course. I say try to be as creative as possible. The conventional essay, as I said already, it's probably okay, but I don't know if you'll really get across in the conventional essay what you can get across in other formats. There's other written formats you can use. Letters to the editor could be a decent format, where the first Jorver writes a longish letter. So what's the word count? Say 1,800 words. A 900-ish word letter to the editor, where they explain why they hate this other approach and why they think their approach is the best, and a responding letter from the other character where they basically do the same but in favor of their own approach. Again, be critical or creative there. Maybe even have a little argument at the very end of each letter where you say, well, while I totally I totally support my own approach. I really dislike this other approach. I could see instances or elements in this approach that I don't particularly dislike. So there is scope to be a little bit critical here. It's not just a case of, don't have it being solely a case of my approach is great, blah, 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 your approach is terrible, blah, blah. Try to get in a little bit of subtlety, a little bit of critical thinking here. So one act play will obviously work here if you get the, as I've said already, if you get the characters into a particular environment, preferably an environment that you wouldn't normally associate with an academic geography assignment. Videos obviously will work here. Obviously, if you want to bring in all the characters, you can play the characters yourselves. Again, as I say, I love low production values in videos. This is not media studies. So low production values are good for me. If you want to play the characters yourself, the 2 or 3 different characters yourself, just wear different clothes for the different characters. And I'd be really interested to see, okay, how does, we'll say, John think a Marxist geographer would dress like? How do they think a traditional regional geographer would dress like? Ultimately, guys, with this option, as with all the other options, it's good to have that little bit of creativity. It's good to take the option to do something different to a conventional essay. But ultimately, the main thing is to get the content. Make sure there's enough content there. So make sure you're offering enough content, drawing what you learn from the lectures, drawing what you pick up from relevant readings on why X approach, why someone associated with a certain approach in geography would think it's the best approach ever, why they might think this other approach is flawed, and then the other person, why they think their approach is the best ever, and why they think this other approach, why they might think this other approach is flawed. So yeah, getting across the content is important. You can be creative, but if there's creativity and no content, then you're not addressing the brief. So way back in the middle of October, and I sent you this video the first time by email, I included a slide to encourage you all to make use of office hours in November to try and discuss your ideas. And then 2 days later, I was no longer able to be in the office, so that went a bit pear-shaped. But I have been emailing you all to say, look, if you have any queries, if you want to discuss your assignment, let me know, email me. We can do it through Teams, we can do it over the phone if that works better for you, whatever works. What I would say with this is something you need to do this week or next week. This is not something you should be doing at the start of December, on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of December, just before deadline day. So I'm available if you want to talk over your report ideas. If you want to run ideas by me, give me an email. We'll arrange a quick Teams chat, or if Teams isn't working for you, we can do it over the phone. And that option is available for this week. It's available for next week. Not really available for those few days before, because it's at that stage, there's no point. I definitely don't want to be talking to people who are on the 1st of December saying, oh, I'm just starting this assignment now. What advice would, it's the 1st of December, the 2nd of December, I'm just starting this now. Oh, I'm really busy, I'm just starting this assignment now. What advice would you give me? I'd say my advice would be, get ready for a fail mark. Yeah, happy Christmas, everyone. Yeah, so the best thing to do is, the best thing to make use of this, try to talk to me this week, what is it now? Today's the 19th of November. So anytime this week, anytime next week, that's fine. Ideally, I want to be talking to people who have already started this, who just want to be of guidance on saying, okay, I've already done this, this is the way I'm going, how can I finesse this? So what I really want to do is talk to people who want ideas on how to finesse their finished report or video, how they can turn a potential 60% mark into a 70, and so on. I really, really don't want to be talking to people who come to me on the 1st of December or 2nd of December now, oh, I'm only starting this now. What should I do? I'd say, as I said, there's not much. what can I say at that stage? It's too late to give advice. And like, as you know already, this assignment has been available on Moodle for the last 2 months, so there's no reason for late submission here. So in any case, that's that. So yeah, in short, like the penguin there, I'm ready for consultation. Okay, the don't do's for this assignment. Don't do number one. Main thing is, first don't do not, under any circumstances, use ChatGPT, use AI to write this assignment. You're going to be caught, and if you're caught, I have no time. There's 97 people in this class. I won't have time to be worrying about the ins and outs of this. If it looks very obvious to me that most of the assignment, or a large part of the assignment, or all the assignment has been generated by ChatGPT, 0% straight away, no questions. You can appeal afterwards, but you know what? I've no sympathy for people who do this. That's cheating. That's unfair. And one way I'll put this is, if you're there on the 3rd of December, you're panicking because you haven't enough work done for this, don't reach your AI. You're better off saying, okay, I'm not going to get this done today. I'll submit it late. There will be, if there's no valid reasons, there has to be a late submission penalty, but the late submission penalty isn't going to be too harsh. I won't be too harsh, but I had to apply a late submission penalty because I have to be fair to the other 85 students who submit on time. So there might be a late submission penalty, but it's better to do that than get into a panic and say, oh, I'll take a shortcut here. I'll cut and paste a few ideas from the internet, or I'll take a shortcut here and I'll use ChatGPT. If you're caught doing that shortcut, plagiarism, AI, 0%. Do not do this. We keep saying this to you, so you've got plenty of warning now at this stage. I'm pretty sure everyone in this class is smart enough to know that's something you shouldn't do. Why should you do it anyway? You're coming through university to learn different things. This assignment allows you to gives you the option, the chance to do different things. So why throw that away and let some bloody internet computer thingamajig do it for you? If you let some bloody internet computer thingamajig do it for you, I'll use my bloody internet computer thingamajig to put a 0 grade beside your name, and that's it. Look, guys, it's better to get 40% for a so-so assignment than go down the route of AI and get 0%. Okay, that's the major don't do. The other major don't do is, while it's good to be creative, I've said this before, I'll say again, while it's good to be creative, you have to have the content there. You have to have enough content. So it can't just be, I've seen some assignments in the past and it's just kind of like, okay, it's all fraught and no substance. Where you start going into characters, there's pages of characters. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, I hate you, yeah. I'm kind of going, okay, this is meant to be a debate between the Marxist geographer and the behavioral geography. Why am I not seeing anything to do with Marxist geography yet? Why am I not seeing something to do on behavioral geography yet? So it's great to be creative, but you have to ultimately the creativity is there to get the content across. So make sure there's more than enough content in your account. Don't do, kind of nicer don't do's. One thing I'd say on the don't do's is don't get too over anxious about going slightly over the word count. I don't want, and I don't need to get emails on the 2nd of December saying, oh, the upper word count is 2,000, I'm at 2,100. Okay, another Easter egg for those of you who have listened to this video up to this point. If your overall word count for your report comes in around 2,200, 2,300, I won't lose sleep over that. I don't mind you going slightly over the word count. Especially if you're going slightly over the word count, because you need those extra words to better explain your ideas, to better develop your arguments. That's fine. That's more than okay with me. Obviously, if you give me 5,000 words, I'm going to be going, but 2,000, anything up to 2,500, 2,600 words, I'm okay with that. The word count really is there to try and protect yourselves. It's there to make sure I'm not over assessing you. I'm not asking you to do too much for the amount of marks given to this. But as I said, If you go a few hundred words over the word count, don't panic over that. I'm not going to penalize people on that account. If I get 5,000 words and it's all, most of it's waffle, it's a different story. But yeah, don't get too anxious about the word count. And remember, the word count does not include things like a list of references. That's not included as part of the word count. On the other hand, if you hand up something that's about 1,000 words, or even 1,000 words with a list of references, if it comes in below the lower, if it comes in well below the kind of the lower range of the word count, so it comes in below 1,750 words. Say you give me something 1,400 words or 1,300 words, chances are you haven't got enough ideas or enough content there. So try to get to the word count if you can. Now, don't try to get to the word count by just padding out your answer or your answer with irrelevant material. So in a way, probably 1,400 words that has good content is better than 1,750 words where you've got 1,400 words that are pretty decent, and then 300 words where you just threw them in to make up the numbers. Yeah, so that's the word count. Any other final advice I'd give you? Deadlines. The deadline is midnight on the night of the 3rd of December, or a minute to midnight on that night. If you have slight technical difficulties before submission, if it's slight technical difficulties and it's there at 11:30 and suddenly the internet dies, and it's a few hours before you can get the internet up, I'm not going to be penalizing people for being a few hours after the deadline. So don't get into a panic if you say submit at 10 minutes past 12. I'm not going to be going, how dare they? 0% straight away. I won't do that. So yeah, don't be too worried if you're a few hours late with this. I'm not going to be too harsh on people who are just barely missed the deadline. But if someone's a few days late and there's no valid reasons for it, obviously, out of fairness to everyone else who made a big effort to get the work done on time, there will have to be some degree of a late submission penalty. It won't be very harsh, but there'll be a penalty all the same. Any last don't do advice? Yeah, as I said, last bit of don't do advice. I think the main thing is, if you're listening to this and you haven't started work on your assignment yet, then you need to start working now, basically. Remember, it's worth a third of the module mark, so this is something you should be given a good amount of time to. This is not something you can start at 9 o'clock on the 3rd of December and try to spend 3 hours finishing. It's not like you can't get 1/3 of the module marks. 1/3 of the module marks can't be just based on 3 hours of a rush job. Hopefully not 3 hours of a rush job where you end up using AI. That's bad. But 3 hours of a rush job where you do get your own ideas across, but you're rushing it. And you haven't really done enough background reading. You haven't gone over the lecture notes enough. So the last don't do advice is don't do a rush job on this. Don't leave this to the last minute. If you find yourself doing a rush job, leave it to the last minute and you're in a mad panic, you know what? You're better being a day late or 2 days late than just spending 2 hours on a rush job assignment and doing a really bad job, maybe missing the point totally. I am very happy to give 90% or 95% to excellent pieces of work where I see a lot of good relevant content, a lot of creativity, where I see this is, for a final year geography student, they really couldn't have done much better with this. I'm very happy to give out the high marks for excellent work, but on the other hand, if someone really hasn't put in the work, they missed the point, I can see this is a rush job. I'm sorry, I'm also happy to fail people if they haven't enough work done, because this is important. It's 1/3 of the module mark, and if you haven't put in the effort, you don't deserve the marks. So yeah, that's the final bit of don't do advice. Just don't do this. Anyway, everyone, 2 weeks ago, as of now, until submission day, good luck. and as I say in Strictly Come Dancing, keep approaches to human geography or something like that.